Okay, so let's remind ourselves that JavaScript is just a toolkit for us to manipulate our HTML and make the HTML do things on command, on user input, on different events in the browser. That's what JavaScript is for. JavaScript, once again, has access to this DOM, and therefore JavaScript can grab different elements from the DOM. And so one of the elements the element that we want to grab in our JavaScript learning session right now is this box that's on the web page. And the reason we want to grab it is because we want to tell this box to move. When I click it, I want it to move over to the right. And then when I click it again, move back to the left. So what I'm gonna have to do is go to the JavaScript. But before I go to the JavaScript, I have to add the JavaScript to the web page. And so like CSS, you will link inside of the head, but JavaScript, what you want to do is link at the end of your body. You want to put a script tag like that, and then you want to say source index.js. Cool. And this links your JavaScript file over here. Like that. So now, now that this index.js file has loaded this JavaScript file knows about all of this. So what we can do in JavaScript file is say, yo, let me grab that element right here, that div that is supposed to be representing the box. Let me get that element from you. And so how we do it is we call on the document. We say document dot. So the document, remember, is the document object model. So we're calling onto the document. What is the document object model? It's this whole thing. So we basically calling on this name right here. We say, hey, Dom. And Dom saying, what up? And we're going to say, then you already introduced the query selector, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to say query selector all. And what that does is it says, hey, I'm querying for a specific selector. And he says, that's what we tell Dom. We say, hey, Dom, I'm querying for a specific selector. And so remember, or I'll get there. So Dom says, well, what is the selector's name? So here we have to put inside parentheses, we have to say what the selector name is. The selector name is box. And all will give me all of the ones that say box. So come back as a list, but query selector just gives you one. So that's what I need like that. Okay, cool. So it says document is an object. It's an object, remember, document object. So objects have these things called properties. They have these things called methods. This is an object. It has a property and a method. And it has properties and it has methods. Properties being things that describe the bottle, and methods being actions that I can take on the bottle, like drinking the water, filling it up, dumping it out, throwing it away. Different actions that I can take on the bottle. So it's the same representation in computer science. So remember, this is the document object model, meaning that this object has properties and it also has actions. And so the way that we access those properties and actions is by using this dot. We call on the name document. So we say Dom, and Dom says, what up? And we say, we want to access one of your actions. We need you to query yourself for an element that has the class name box. So Dom goes over to his element tree and he finds an element, this div, that has a class box, and then it returns it to the JavaScript. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Okay, so one thing that we want to do though inside the JavaScript is that once we get this once we get this element back, we want to be able to save this element so that we can use later within our program. And so the way that we save, so this element is representation of pretty much a data point, if you will. Like if you just think of data as just any information on the web, this element is technically a piece of data. And so what I'm trying to get at is that whenever we want to save data for later, we save data inside of JavaScript using variables. And so I wanted to show you how to create a variable. You can think of a variable kind of like in math, math, X represents 6, X represents 7, like X can be any type of data. If you give me, like, it'd be 100, it could be 1, it could be whatever that data value you want to be. So in JavaScript and other programming languages, when you create variables, you set it equal to some type of data. And so for us, our data is going to be an HTML element from the DOM. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So the way that we create variables in JavaScript is that we say this word var, and then the variable name. So we're gonna call this one box. I'm gonna call it red box, actually. So I use this word var, and at the beginning of JavaScript, this is how you would declare all variables. But then over the years, they found better ways to declare variables. So you can still use var, but most people use let. That's a more proper one. And let, I think, is actually what I use is let, I think it was. And then you can also use const. And const stands for constant. So meaning that whatever data point I set red box to, it's going to always be that data point. I'm not going to switch red box to point to some different data. It's never going to change over time. So you only want to use const when you know that the variable you set is always going to remain the same data. But right now, you just say, all right, and honestly, it is, because we're not going to change red. We're not going to change red box, so we're going to say let. Right, yeah, because we're going to change the different values of red box. But even then, you could keep it a const. But that makes sense. So when most people right now use let whenever they want to create a variable, and then they set it later. Like I set it equal to that HTML element, but I can also say let, and let's create a string called empty string, and then we can set it equal to empty string. And then I can say let number equal 5, and I just created a variable that's set equal to 5. I created an empty string set equal to that, and I also created a red box that's set equal to something from the document, or an element from the document once I queried it, and the query I gave it was .box. So this is how you create just different like variables and set it equal to data. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. But the other ones, we just the first one. Also in JavaScript and in other programming languages like C++, you end each line, each statement, at the end of each statement, that says, well, like each line is like a command or a statement. You end each one with a semicolon. But not everybody, like JavaScript is not super like big on it. It will still work if you forget your semicolon. But in other programming languages like C++, if you forget the semicolon, like everything get fucked up. So sometimes you'll see the semicolon there, sometimes you won't. Like it really depends. Okay, so this red box, basically what you can think of red box is like now, it's like this. Over here, let's say this is the JavaScript, and we said red box. Red box is kind of like an arrow that points to this node inside of the DOM. Like what we call that is, in computer science, we call it a reference. Like this red box refers to this node in the DOM. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can kind of think of it like, let me see, like a bag of chips. Like inside, we know chips the data for chips is like a potato with like different flavors and stuff on it, and it's fried, but we give it a reference. We call it chips, and we understand what that means. So somebody say, "Hand me them chips." We go and grab this package that represents like all the data for the chips. That's the same thing with red box. If somebody calls on red box, it goes and grabs this element that represents everything that red box was described to be. It got like all the data for the red box. So I gave it the CSS and stuff. It knows about all of that just by having a reference to it. Okay, so like I just said, this red box element has or knows about all of the CSS, and it knows about like the different things that the HTML said on it. So when I say I want to move the red box from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen, what that means, I'm actually going to have to update the CSS. I'm going to have to say, move your, I'm probably going to have to make it like position absolute, and then say, I should just make it position absolute now. See, position absolute, so I can move it. Okay, so now I'll be able, let me make sure, I'll be able to set its X coordinate to say, not X, I'll be able to set its top, or say left, is right, yeah, left. I'll be able to set its left, let's say 50 pixels. And then really move, let's say 500 pixels, boom. And then it moves like that. And so then I could go set the right, 500 pixels, and then it move like that. So what I'm seeing is that I need to update this property of left or right to a value, and it will move the square for me. But I need to do that dynamically. That making sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like once I update these values, the square moves. So basically, that's how the squares work, by moving the left and right values. I need to be able to do that though when I click the square. When I click the square, I need it to move. And so once again, the JavaScript knows about everything that or has access to the DOM, and the DOM knows about everything that's in its tree. So the DOM also listens for different things that go on, meaning like the DOM listens for or watches the mouse as it moves, and you can like, it watches the mouse. It also watches you scroll up the page, down the page. The DOM watches you click different things. It watches you hover over different things. And so each element, the DOM is watching all of those things at once. Like, this shit wild. So like what we can do in the code is, because we have now a reference to this box, we can tell the DOM that we want to listen for some type of event to go on. And so the way that we do that is we tell the element itself that we want to listen to an event. So we say redbox dot add event listener. And give me a second. Go like that. Redbox dot add event listener. Remember, redbox is an object. Everything up in the object tree is an object. Redbox is an object. Therefore, we can access one of its methods, which is to add an event listener. What is an event? Those are the things that happen inside of it. So a mouse hover, a click, a change value, like it listens for everything. There's so many different things that you can listen for. So we're going to say redbox, I want you to listen for a click. And then the redbox says, okay, what we're doing right here is passing in parameters. Parameters is like data to the action. So I need you to add a listener. It says, what do you want to listen to? Well, the first parameter is click, or we passed in the data click. So it's going to listen to the click event. And then the second parameter, it says, what do you want me to do when you hear a click event? And so we need to pass in here a function. And so a function is just a few lines of code that's bundled together. And then when somebody like calls on the function name, it will run those lines of code, basically. And so really, I mean, add event listener is a function as well, because when we say Redbox, that add event listener, there's some code in the background that is going to run, or that's setting this click, when the click happens on here, to run a function. There's some code that this handles all of that connection for us, and we don't have to write that code. But what we do have to write is the codes, the steps that we want to follow when this red box is clicked. And so it's looking for a function. And so therefore we're going to define a function. Everything I said so far though, does that make sense? You got any questions?
No, but I'm definitely gonna have to watch this back.
Got you. I'll send you the recording. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do is create a function. And remember, a function is just lines of code packaged together, but functions you have to write a function in a specific way. So what we're gonna do first is define a function. We're gonna define, so basically think of like the dictionary. You have a word and then you define the definition for it. So what we're gonna do is create a function, we're gonna give it a name, and then we're gonna give it a definition, meaning that we're gonna, when we're gonna define the steps that the computer needs to take whenever the name is called on here. So the way that we do that is we say, I say let, I'm gonna call it Redbox click equals function, like that. So what I did was I gave it a name. I called it Redbox click handler. So what this does is we have an event that we're listening for. And that event is the click event. We're listening for the click event. When the click event happens, I need a function to handle that event. So what I'm doing is I created a function called Redbox click handler. So when the red box is clicked, this is the function right here that I'm about to define that's going to handle that click. That makes sense? Yeah, that was a little difficult, huh?
A little.
Okay, I got you. So let's take a look at the red box right now. Right now, if I click on this red box, nothing's happening. But the thing is, although I'm clicking on this red box and nothing happening, the DOM knows I'm clicking on it. The DOM knows everything. It knows I am clicking this red box. It knows it. But there's nothing set up to do anything about it. It just says, oh, the red box was clicked, the red box was clicked, the red box was clicked, but there's nothing set up to do anything about it. What I'm doing right here is, because I have access to that red box from you by asking the document to query select the red box, and then it gave it to me right here in this red box variable. What I'm doing now is adding an event listener saying, I'm listening for an event. Remember, there are multiple events. You can check the event when the mouse hovers over it. You can check the event when the mouse leaves it. You can check the event when I click down and didn't release yet. And then you can check the event when I do release. Like you can check the event when I hurry up and just click it. It's a whole bunch of different events that you can check on anything in the DOM. Like it's just watching everything. So when I say click here and nothing's happening, that's because there's nothing set up to listen for it. But what I'm trying to do right here on line 5 is add an event listener to listen for the click event. So when I'm clicking on here, I need something to pop off. And it says, what do you need to pop off? And right here, I'm saying I need my red box click handler. I need my click handler to pop off. So that's why I created this function called red box click handler. And so it's going to handle the clicks. Right now, nothing's happening because all I did was set it equal to an empty function. So nothing's happening right now. But I can go in here and say alert. And what you'll see now is that when I click on it, boom, what up though was alerted to the screen. So red box was set equal to a function. And inside the function, I defined it. The first line just says alert to the screen, what up though? So ask me some questions because I know it's a little confusing, but with this small example, I can probably get you to understand what's happening. And maybe right before this question, I want to show you that this is the syntax for a function like this. This is what the function looks like. You got the function name and you got the parameter list. The parameter list is like data that you want to use inside of the square brackets. That may not make sense just yet, but you'll see as we go on, as we're defining different functions, we're going to need some data that's already defined to be used inside the function. And we pass that data through these parameters right here, or this parameter list. But after the parameter list, you have your open curly bracket, and then you got your closing curly bracket, and then you put your code right in the middle. And then you go to the next line and write more code, and the next line and write more code, and the next line write more code. And then you go boom, 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 set it equal. And now this red box click handler, whenever a click happens, it's going to call this red box click handler, and it's going to run this line of code, it's going to run that line of code, it's going to run that line of code, and it's going to run that line of code, and it's going to do it every single time. See? Every single time I click it, every single time I click it, it's going to open that. How we doing?
I don't like JavaScript.
But you can't run now. You want to be the best front-end developer. Yeah. This it right here. You got it though. It ain't too bad. It's logic. I told you this was logic. You was like, I need something hard, I need something hard. Well, here you go.
My head hurts.
We're always talking about CSS, HTML, ain't nothing. Give me the hard stuff. I'm ready for that hard stuff. We only wrote 5 lines of code.
Yeah. This is gonna be a challenge.
Okay, so something that you learned about yesterday was comments. So it's always real cool to go through and comment your code. So this first line, what this does, grabs the box element from the HTML and saves it into a variable in JavaScript.
Oh, I would hate to edit your code. I would be like, why the hell is the description so damn long?
Yeah. You haven't seen shit till you seen work at Microsoft. Niggas be like there's a comment where you can go like this. And then you can have comments all here. Microsoft, this should be long as hell. It'd be describing everything. But then this is a one-liner code or one-liner comment. Okay, so here, define the function that will run when the red box is clicked. The function alerts to the user to the screen. This tells the DOM to run the function when the red box is clicked. You see how I had that suggestion? Or how I've been having suggestions that like say words and stuff. That's because I hooked up this thing right here called GitHub Copilot. It's active right now. It's a AI system that watches me as I code and it suggests things so that I don't gotta keep Googling shit all the time. I'd be like, bet. It'd be finishing my sentences and shit for writing code. Shit speeds up my code for real. Okay, so this is what we did. All right, and these are pretty much the steps. But remember, I wanted to move this box over here. I didn't want to just open an alert. So what I need to do is come up here and redefine the function that I wanted to do. Well, you know, I'll keep that one. I'll call this one red box, click handler underscore alert. So that one's going to make it alert. And what I'm gonna do instead of changing it, I'll just add another function. Let red box click handler, and I'm gonna call it move equals function. And oh, cool. So this is a good time to pass in some data. So what I want to do is move. Or you see how it's suggesting this to me?
I thought that was automatic, but yeah.
Yep, if I press tab, it literally wrote the code for me. So now if I just come here and remember this red box, I'm setting up a click handler, but right now it's connected to the red box click handler alert. So it's gonna run the alert one. But what I can do is change this to red box click handler move, and then it will run the move one. Okay. I'll move it. Plus 100. Let's see. I'm gonna go plus 500. All right, it ain't work. Let's see what happened. I styled that left, parse it. I gotta set the left real quick. So let me see. Gotta go here, set left, 0. There we go. Now when I click it, okay, that shit tripping. Oh, it don't work all the time. Okay, so we got red box. This is dot style. Function moves the red box to the right 100 pixels. Let me see. This shit is tripping. Let me take this off. Okay, so we need to grab the red box. So red box. We say dot style. Let me see if I change the color. See, I ain't grabbing the CSS right. So change CSS and JS. The pros got to look this shit up. Was using it right, I guess. How the fuck you didn't change? Oh, background color. That's right. I should turn it to black. All right, cool. Yeah. All right, so it does work. All right, cool. So what I basically did in order to access the CSS by saying styles. So I went here and then I end up changing the background color. It's kind of like CSS, how they say background color, but you can't do dash and JavaScript. So they do something called Camel Case, which the first word is lowercase and then capitalize the second word, and so you can see the difference. So background color, and I set it equal to black. But what I actually want to do is move it to the right. So I need to set this left property to like, go 100 pixels, or let's go 300 pixels. Let's see if that works. Boom, and it jumps. Okay, cool. But what if I don't want to just like, what if I wanted to go backwards, right? So if I wanted to go backwards, I needed to pretty much switch back and forth. And so I'm gonna need to know like the direction. So I'm gonna pass in this variable called direction. And let's say if direction, the direction is right, then I want it to go like that. And else it's left, therefore I want it to go back to the left for 0. And so when I call this, yeah, I'm adding a little extra because we only got 10 minutes, but when you review this video, you're gonna see. So I'm gonna add another variable called, which is a Boolean, which is just true or false. And this one means, this one's gonna be direction is right. And right now we're gonna make that true. And so now pass in this function like this. And it's gonna call red dot alert with direction right. And then it's gonna set direction right equal to the opposite value. Direction right. All right. One second, I'm gonna go back and explain this shit real quick. That one. Cool. All right. Let's make sure we got it right. Oh wait, that's the click alert. I meant move. Cool. All right. So it's hopping back and forth. What I just did was add a lot of things that probably just went over your head. So let me show you. The goal was the first goal was just when click, move it over. We was able to do that. When click, it moved over. All we said was red box style left, set it equal to 300 pixels, and then it moved over. But the thing is, when we clicked it again, it didn't move back to the left, or it didn't move back to where it came from. So what I said is I want to be able to like move it back and forth. And so when I realized that, I said, oh, I'm gonna need to pass in a parameter. I'm gonna need some data here. I need to know what direction do y'all want me to move the cube. And so that's a good time to pass in some data. Here I name that data direction. And so the direction is just going to be a true or false value. If the direction is true, then we're going to move the red box over 300 pixels. And if it's false, that's why you got this else statement, we're going to move it back to 0. And so this is the syntax for if. You got, so I said if direction, but I'm really saying if direction equal true. like that. So equal true, move like that. If it's, or else it's false, therefore move it back the other way. That's what that means.
Okay.
And so you got your if, and then inside the if, you got the condition that you want to check. The condition here being direction, is it true? Is it false? This is the condition I check. If this like comes out to be true, then this like the code inside of here runs, and then it skips this code and it keeps going. But if this is false, this code is skipped, and then the code inside the else is ran and keeps going. So really, this is making the decision, do I run this code or do I run this code? And that decision is based on this check right here. So you could say if duration is true. So that makes sense?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So now what I did down here was, first I defined a value for the direction. I says the direction right, and right now it's true. So if the direction is right, according to this function, it should move it to 300. But this is just a random, right now, this is just a random variable that I created. I said direction right equals true. Right now that has not like the program don't really care about it. Like if the program just read this line and it didn't continue down reading the rest of the lines, setting the variable direction right to equal true wouldn't really mean nothing. But now I'm about to use it in a way that it actually means something. So what do I mean? So we still got this red box add event listener, and we're listening for a click event. But before we was just calling on a function name right here. But now that now it's changed. And the reason it's changed, what it's changed to is a function that I defined in space or in place. Like I just defined it real quick right now. I didn't give it a name. I didn't give it a reference. I'm just telling you to run this set of commands every single time this square is clicked. And so the syntax for that is like this. It's like you put your parameter list, your arrows, your arrow, and then your square bracket or your curly brackets, and in between the curly brackets is the code you want to write. It's pretty similar to the function notation actually, except that in function notation you don't gotta use that, and instead you gotta say the word function. So this is pretty much the same thing, this one and this one, and then you say function, you say function, give it a name. We call this def, and then set it equal. And then you would just put this function right here called def. But right now I said I don't want to give it a name. I just know that I want you to run this set of commands. These are the set of commands I want you to run. And I just put it in this weird notation that JavaScript makes you put it in. So this set of commands that I want you to run is going to run redbox move, and it's going to pass in the direction right. Now direction right, when I call on redbox move handler, it's going to come up here and it's going to say, do you have that data for direction? And because I passed in direction right here, direction right is going to be what direction is. So whole time when it's coming through and checking like is direction equal true, it's going to be actually looking at direction right. This is just the definition. Like this is the definition of the code, and it says whatever data you pass in, I'm going to refer to that data in this definition as the word direction. And then I will be able to check is that data direction and do the logic I need it to do. So when you call on it, so this is just defining it. Now you can use it. After you define it,